Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. Today I have for you a what's for lunch video. This is my first ever what's for lunch video. Don't expect to see a lot of these on my channel because typically we eat leftovers for lunch just to keep it really simple, and we always have like dinner leftovers. And then when we don't, we keep it really simple with like peanut butter and jelly. But I do have 3 delicious lunch ideas to share with you. The first one will be a black bean soup with quesadillas. The second one will be like homemade ABCs and 1, 2, 3s like SpaghettiOs. And the third one will be a homemade tomato soup with grilled cheese. So let's go ahead and get into the video. So we're going to start off with our favorite recipe that we tried, and that was the black bean soup. This recipe came from Naptime Kitchen. I will have her Instagram and her blog linked down below, but I did make some adjustments because I wanted to make this in the Instant Pot. That's really the only thing that I changed. So to start off, I just heated up a couple tablespoons of olive oil with my Instant Pot on saute. Once that oil was hot, I added in 1 diced yellow onion and some red pepper. It said to use like 1 diced red pepper, but instead I chopped up a couple of mini red sweet peppers because that's what I had on hand, and I'm all about using what I have on hand versus buying something that might go bad. Like I knew if we didn't have the pepper, it would be fine without the pepper, but I buy these all the time anyways for the kids for snacks. So I had it on hand and I added that in, and then I just cooked this for about 5 minutes until they were tender. Once my onion and pepper were done cooking, I turned the saute function off, and then I added in 4 cups of chicken broth. You could do vegetable broth. She says in the original recipe that if you do vegetable broth, then that makes this vegan. So if you want to make it vegan, then change out the broth. And then we also needed to add 2 12-ounce jars of salsa. I had 1 16-ounce jar and then like half a jar of like 2 different 12-ounce jars. So I just added all those in. And she recommended doing 1 green and 1 red, but I had like 1.5 green and then half red, and it still turned out delicious. So just like whatever salsa you want to add to it, I think will be great. So I added that in, and then a teaspoon each of cumin and chili powder, and then 6 cans of drained and rinsed black beans. Then I stirred everything together really well, put the lid on, make sure it was sealed, and then I cooked this on manual high pressure for 7 minutes. Once it was done cooking, I turned it off, and then I did a quick release. Once all that steam had been released, I took the lid off, and this is what it looked like. You could totally eat it just like this with the beans whole, but she recommends blending it up either in a blender or an immersion blender, and I went in with my immersion blender and didn't blend it like till it was completely smooth. You could make it completely smooth, but she said she prefers it like a little bit chunky, so that's what I did. And she said if you do it in the blender, to like leave some to the side so you have some chunky and then some blended. It had a great texture. I was really worried that the kids might not like it, but they loved it, and it was great with a cheese quesadilla on the side. We love this so much, and I will definitely be making it again. It also made a ton of food, so I will be freezing some of this to have like a quick meal to pull out of the freezer as well. Next up, our second favorite was the homemade SpaghettiOs or ABCs and 1, 2, 3s because I could not find the little O's, but I was able to find the alphabet and like number ones at the Mexican grocery store, so I used those instead. So I just started off by bringing some salted water to a boil and cooking those according to the package directions. Once the pasta was done, I drained them and then left them to the side, and then I returned that pot to the stove, and in it we're going to make the sauce. All the measurements for this will be listed out down below, as well as the blog post where I got the original recipe. I did adapt it some, but in my pot I'm going to add some tomato sauce, some tomato paste, some garlic powder, paprika, onion powder, and thyme and salt, and then a little bit of honey, some milk, and some butter. It says that the honey is optional, but if you've ever had like canned SpaghettiOs, you know that there's like just like a little bit of sweet taste, and usually with like tomato sauce you'll add like a little bit of sugar or something to cut the acid. So instead of sugar, we're using honey, and I just stirred that all together really well and I brought it to a simmer, made sure that the butter melted. Then I stirred in 1 cup of cheddar cheese, and when that was melted I added in my pasta. This This was something that was really hard to get a good picture of. I think the O's would have photographed better, but it is what it is. It was delicious. The kids loved it so much they asked if there was more, and there really wasn't any leftovers of this, but I will definitely make this again for them. It was really good and like pretty simple to make. I know popping open a can of SpaghettiOs is a little bit easier, but sometimes I might make this and sometimes I might make that. This was really good. And finally, we have homemade tomato soup. This recipe is from the Lazy Genius on Instagram. I'm going to list out the ingredients down below as well as link to her Instagram, because like the only way to really find it is in like her highlights. So it's a little bit difficult to find, but I will list out all the ingredients and everything that I use down below for you guys. So I'm going to start off with some butter and oil in my pot. And then I'm going to saute some onion and some carrots, and I'm going to season them with some salt. One mistake that I made here is I think I used a little bit too much carrot. That was my kids' like only complaint, was that it tasted too much like carrot. So if you have picky kids or you yourself are picky, don't add too much carrot because you will be able to taste it. After sauteing the onion and the carrot for just a few minutes, I added in some water, just enough to cover the vegetables. And then I went in with a little bit of the Knorr chicken bouillon powder. I did about half of a teaspoon. And then I also added in some of the Tones, or I think it's Member's Mark, chicken base. Just to give it a little bit more flavor, because the base one isn't as salty as the Knorr one, so I didn't want to make it like overly salty, so I used a little bit of each of those. And then I just let that simmer for probably about 10 minutes until my veggies were completely soft. After about 10 minutes, my carrots and onions were super tender, and so then I was able to go in with my immersion blender and blend everything up so that it was super smooth. Then I added in a couple cans of tomato sauce, and I added it a little bit at a time at first because I wanted to really make sure that my carrots and onions were blended together. So adding a little bit more liquid to them helped me kind of get it smooth. And then once I had it smooth, I added in the rest of my tomato sauce. I tasted it for seasonings, added I think a little bit more salt, and then I just let this simmer so that all the flavors could combine for about 5 to 10 minutes. And of course, we just ate this tomato soup with some grilled cheese on the side. I thought it was delicious. I liked the flavor of the carrot and onion in it. The kids ate it really without too many complaints. They just said, like, if I make it again, like, please don't add as many carrots, because we can taste that it has a lot of carrots in it. So, as I mentioned before, if you don't like a lot of carrot flavor, maybe only do like 2 carrots like the recipe originally said, and I did like 4 carrots. It was just probably too many, but it was delicious in my opinion. But that is going to do it for this What's for Lunch video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It's a little different than the regular videos that I usually put out. I'm usually doing what's for breakfast and what's for dinner, because as I mentioned before, what's for lunch is not really something that we do because it's basically the same as what's for dinner. People ask me to share like what's in Andy's lunchbox, but it's leftovers. Surprise, it's leftovers. And when there is an off chance that there isn't any leftovers, he'll get something on his break, like a Del Taco or Chick-fil-A or whatever else is in the parking lot by his work. So that is why I don't share them very often. But I hope that you guys enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions for me to try for lunch ideas when I do have a day where we don't have something for lunch, let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye!